We made the best decision that we could, as always, based upon the data and based upon projections and modeling. We felt.
You're shaking your head, Kenzo?
Well, she said, like, we made the best decision we can, as we always do. They don't. She just does, like, even a good mayor shouldn't be that fucking arrogant. Like, she can at least, I mean, like, I think she's batting, 0. But, she can at least make the argument maybe half the time she's making good decisions. But she's got such big lawyer brain, like, literally, like, big law makes people into these kind of people.
Love your face. Yeah, I'm looking at it, and that looks like it should be good. All right, Kenzo, how you doing, buddy?
Doing all right.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Leftist and Chill.
Thank you.
Yeah, we, as you know, we invite guests on in the spirit of building left unity, strength, and power. You're the winningest, or as I like to call the championist champion. My most returning guest. Friend of mine, and we get to make the show Meet the Left together. We do that every Sunday night. We got a bang up panel for this next week as well. Oh
yeah, we got 2 members of DSA who are both running for national leadership, the national political committee. That's Laura Gabby, who is a member of the Bread and Roses Caucus, and Austin Gonzalez from Machete y Mate, who also has been on the NPC for the last 2 years. He heads the international committee. So that's gonna be great. And also Amy C from Twitch. So it's gonna be a big show. It's gonna be fun.
And folks, if you don't know about the show, it's a small leftist panel, and it's not a debatey panel. There are other people who yell at their cameras and do debates, and that's not what we do.
Yeah, last week was a lot of fun.
So good. Good to be back.
Jamie Peck, Ravana, and Gabby from Beef Country.
It was a really great lineup, as always. There's always really good vibes, and despite not, people not always agreeing 100% of the time, it's not so fucking cringe and debatey and annoying, and it's totally tolerable. And we had a great chat this past week. I looked over, there were a ton of people watching, and that's sort of what I saw and hoped the show would become eventually, a nice little chill Sunday night place to gather around and each week sort of sit around the fire, as it were.
That's great because everyone listens to each other too. So like they actually are addressing the actual argument. So when they do get into a little back and forth, it is in good faith. Imagine that.
You will have to imagine it because you don't see it that often.
No.
Yeah. Well, it's always been it's been a joy working on the show with you, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more. And it's just it's just a good thing, right? So Kenzo, well, fuck, we call this Leftist and Chill. That's what's on the screen, but this is actually sort of a side project, isn't it? I just realized this is perhaps the first coming together of the idea that we've been tossing around, the Chicago Boys. Is this what this is? Because we're going to be talking about Chicago today.
Oh yeah.
All right. So I need a new graphic.
Well, I always
for the
bring
bottom
Chicago
corner.
into whenever we're discussing politics, just because I think we have everything here.
Everything you need. A lot of stuff you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is what it is.
And it's just the corruption is so naked here that like people don't hide it the way they do in other cities. So it's like, it's like you actually get to dissect the cadaver and watch it in real time as opposed to, reading it in a book. So, Lori Lightfoot right now, I keep telling people in New York, this Eric Adams guy is going to lead exactly like she does. Be careful. And especially a place like New York that has just so much more like finance capitalism happening than Chicago does. Like there's a lot of, when you wield that much power in a city like that has so much money in it, I think that Chicago may have been the trial run for that. So I hope they're organizing.
Today, I think I wanted to talk maybe passingly about the Olympics, just sort of as a means to talk about Lollapalooza, but mainly talking about COVID. And also what that has to do with you getting back into the schools. There's a little one. Perhaps a couple other things locally, Chicago-wise. what happened with quorum at the Chicago DSA. I member of the DSA. I have no idea, and maybe I'm part of the problem. Is it my fault? We were one short of quorum, Dan.
It depends on what you think. It depends on what you wanted to have happen at that meeting. It was your fault, maybe.
Maybe I power played you. Okay, and I didn't realize. Okay, and then of course we want to talk about what it would take to get the Chicago's most dangerous podcaster, to get to what it would take to convince them to run for governor.
Governor never happening, but we can talk about running for office. But governor specifically is not happening. I do not want to go to jail.
What if we could rule that out?
I don't say that even just as a joke. I say that as you enter that office and there's already a bunch of corruption happening, and you either have to figure out a way to keep that going without having it touch you, or you become part of that corruption. And I'm personally happy to have someone else in that seat than me.
You don't want to be in the fire line.
I appreciate Alan's hype on that.
Okay. All right. So how about then we dig into to COVID? How about we just sort of talk about that? I also I think y'all will find out very quickly if you weren't watching the channel before Kenzo jumped on here, but I'm not really into doing these events. I don't think they're a good idea, especially as we're seeing some of the things that we're seeing. I would love to see line go down, but unfortunately that only applies to my income. And the line that's going up, we're starting to see in Illinois and elsewhere is the COVID infection numbers. Okay, so I don't think they should do Olympics. Are you watching the Olympics at all?
No, I usually watch weightlifting and then, but I hate the Olympics. The Olympics are just the IOC in many ways acts as an international monetary fund, one of those, G7 types of committees. Because what they do is all these cities fight for the right to have the Olympic branding there, and they have to reach certain criteria, and it's a fast track to gentrification. That's what we saw in Atlanta. Definitely, people talk about the bombing, but what the real tragedy of that Olympics was the fact that homeless people were, scared out of the city, moved out of their encampments. It was a way of flushing homeless people out of Atlanta, and a lot of them never returned. But then, on top of it, COVID. So there's absolutely no reason to be doing it now.
We seem to have plenty of the vax available for people to get it, for us to reach that a goal of herd immunity. But despite having the vaccine, despite having the infrastructure, it seems like people aren't getting it. What's going on there, Kenzo? Can we just blame it all on conservatives and the brainworms? Telling them that there's 5G, telling them that that spoons are going to start sticking to them. What the fuck is to blame? Why can't we get that? I mean, it seems like we should. We're the greatest country in the history of the world. They keep telling me. I don't know. I'm confused.
I think it's kind of it's almost too simplistic just to blame the chuds, because there was just both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, both sides of electoral politics played the pandemic up for the election without ever actually delivering anything for anyone. So it was, Trump doing the bare minimum, in the end giving us bigger checks, but still, really the bare minimum. And the Democrats playing that up. The Democrats come into power, they give us a little less. They really don't help us out much at all, but they have all of this beautiful messaging about how they saved us from the pandemic. And, leading up to the election, Kamala Harris said that, she used more weasel language, but she said that she would question the vaccine if it came out while Trump was president.
Yeah.
And once she that was definitely the message the Democrats wanted to get out there, that if for some reason the vaccine were to come out before the changing of the guard, then they did not want Trump to be reelected based upon the vaccine. And that's just, I know politicians don't have to take any kind of oath just to run for office, but that was just so blatantly bad faith and disgusting and despicable. Like, we were in a crisis. Donald Trump himself wasn't in a lab coat developing this in a lab. These were real ass doctors. And then to use it like that and to tie it into the election, it would have been much more, I think, maybe not effective in winning, but definitely it would have been more truthful for the Democrats to say, look, Trump is screwing up and we're going to do better, and then just deliver on that. They knew they couldn't do that. So they played politics with the pandemic. And that's what kind of led to confusion on both sides. Like, I have right-wing family. All of them are vaccinated, and none of them, for the most part, trust the vaccine 100%, but they want to, they want to see their grandchildren. They want to see their nieces and nephews. And the younger generation has been saying to them, you have to be vaccinated to see these children again. So they'll still make the jokes about the vaccine being a microchip implanted by Bill Gates and all that, but they still got vaccinated. And with my liberal side of the family, it seems like there was like a little bit of wiggle room. Like, we ended up having to pull out of a family party recently because we found out there's going to be some people there who weren't vaccinated and, weren't going to get vaccinated. And they had children there and they were going to play with my child. And these were liberal and hippies, to be frank. And so, like, it's just weird to me that, like, for me, the right-wing family are the ones that are really respectful of, our boundaries around social distancing still.
All right. So is it fair to assume they're not so far right? They got, they were storming the Capitol with back the blue flags or something.
No, I mean, these are, like, my right-wing family is military, and, like, for example, they don't love Trump, but they'll vote for him. They don't support QAnon. They don't support the storming of the I was going to say Bastille, but of Congress. But they are right wingers. Like, they do believe in the military industrial complex, keeping us safe and being, the only acceptable form of socialism. But they all are vaccinated at this point.
Well, let's take a look at numbers. I have Chicago numbers because we're going to talk next about
numbers. But
oh, you're not a math teacher, right? I was a music teacher, so I'm good with, like, fractions and stuff. So here's some numbers here. I do believe there was a 7-day average in Chicago as low as 64 or so, leading up to a couple days when it looked like there were no cases at all. So I'm not even going to count those. I think they weren't testing. But 7-day average is.
We want the line. We need the line to go back up. It's been going down.
Hold on, these are new cases. What are you talking? This is the wrong line, Kenzo. This is not stonks. You want line to go up? All right. So new cases was as low as 75. We do not want to go to the moon, to be clear. And we're as high as 271 new cases. So that shot up more than 400% in the past 20 days. And this is just a week before Lollapalooza. And so I don't know, you've heard of this other thing in Dutch, in the land of the Dutch, at Utrecht. Where what it's called. But they had a festival, a concert with, wasn't a festival, it was a concert, to be fair. It was 20,000 that attended. And they had similar protocols for those that we have lined up for Lollapalooza. Proof of full vaccination or a negative test, which is pretty much what's required here. have a negative test within the last 72 hours. You present that at the gate. They'll let you in. You don't have a vaccination, you have to wear a mask. That's what they did. 20,000 attended, and then later 1,000 tested positive for COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, 1,000. So that's 20%. Oh, that's not 20%. 1/20th, right? 1/20th. So so more numbers.
Those are still not odds that I would risk.
Oh, dude, that's a fucked up odds, right? So
if I'm at a concert and I look around and I'm like, oh, there's 20 of us here. One of us is going to walk out with COVID. Fuck that concert.
Dude, fuck that concert, right? Not for me. I'm not going to pay $130 for a one-day general admission.
And drink, $2 beers at home rather than like the $10, $15 festival beers.
Dude, grab some Tecate, a bottle of Malort, throw on a playlist with Miley Cyrus, Tyler, the Creator, Post Malone, the Foo Fighters. You're getting 90%.
That also sucks.
The lineup.
Yeah, like Lollapalooza, when it started in the early 90s, was really cool. Like the first Lollapalooza was like Ice Street, Rollins Band, Jane's Addiction, of course. Yeah. It was very eclectic and interesting. It was like all of these groups that could not get on a festival themselves, or like, get a big arena show themselves, all came together. And people explored things. The Jim Rose Circus Sideshow was a big thing where like, people stuck nails through their dicks and, pierced themselves live on stage. Not my thing, but like it was really a subversive time. It was not for kids. And, Ice-T played one year with Body Count. Like it was a very subversive kind of event. And now it's like it's you take the top 100 groups from Spotify, and that's Lollapalooza 2021 plus, a good chance of getting COVID.
I don't want that.
No,
I'm not going. I don't know. You can pay me to go there. Instead, you have to pay a lot of money to go. So
and like another thing that people aren't thinking of is, okay, so you're in this big field, but in years where like Olala had bad rain, everyone finds like shelter under like a booth or something. They're huddled up together. You're there all day. Like it's almost like camping, but like you can't cook yourself a meal or anything. You have to buy from the tents and everything. It's really fucking dangerous. Oh. If everyone wanted to leave at once, that would be a disaster.
400,000 people. Oh, yeah, right. That's capacity crowd. Like that
in more than a year. Maybe start smaller and then like ramp up to Lollapalooza in a year.
All right, so let me bring back these numbers. Because 400,000 is capacity. They said that's how many they expect.
Okay, for scale.
Yeah,
there are 400,000 kids in the Chicago public schools. If every CPS student could attend a Lollapalooza.
I don't think they'd like the show, dude. But if 120 of them got sick, like in Utrecht, 20,000 kids from the suburbs are going to get sick. Awesome.
Is that spelled like Micah Utrecht?
I think so.
It has to be. That's like the only instance of Utrecht.
Maybe we can ask about that. Friend of the show. Meet the left. So 1/20th of 400,000 is 20,000. So I'm thinking about these kids, coming in from all over the country, getting sick on their way in, and then getting people sick on the way out, dude. Just imagine. Yeah,
Lollapalooza isn't just Chicagoans that go. Like,
right.
This is people from all over the country. Places like Texas that have never masked are probably going to be there. We're going to find all sorts of interesting strains.
Oh,
I'm no scientist, but this is not good.
Yeah, so I think this is how the shit evolves and how we get more variants. There's the Lambda variant. They say it's already in Illinois. They say it's like super.
There's the Lambda variant that turns you into a nerd.
All right, that's the first Revenge of the Nerd reference I think we've had on the show.
I love that. It's so problematic. I do love that movie.
I think problematic is an understatement. I think they leaned into it. Like they knew it then and they just leaned into it.
Yeah. Well, then there were no real discussions of consent. And I also think that there was something to like the fact that the nerds are considered to be so emasculated that when they do fucked up things, people feel like, oh, it's funny and cute. But like, if one of the bad guys did something that evil, they look differently upon it. But yeah, not a movie they'd make now.
That's another show. We could definitely dig into that sometime.
Culture itself is kind of Revenge of the Nerds. Like, look at the MCU. Like, all movies are fucking Marvel movies now. I think the nerds did win.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. We are winning. But, not going to do what they did in that movie.
No.
Well, the show starts.
I do have, the shirt that Booger wore that says "High on Stress," just because I actually kind of live that life.
Looking that shirt up.
It's a sweet Ranger. Mine is not covered in snot because I bought it after my child was no longer a toddler.
Remembering. Button. There we go. Yeah, that should. Wow. Way long before Dr. Green was in ER, which actually was something that we were starting to rewatch. ER. Yeah. We'll see how long that lasts.
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah. So like, this is going to be a bad thing. Yeah. And a lot of people along the way are giving the thumbs up. Yeah, let it go on. Like, who were we going to string up after this, Kenzo? I'm sorry. Who's responsible for this?
Well, I mean, there's one person that could just put an end to, well, a couple people, but definitely Lori Lightfoot could just say no Lollapalooza this year, and have the agencies that she runs squash it. I mean, the vendors and Perry Farrell, I guess, could just do the right thing and not throw it. But I think the only person that we've elected who could just stop it is Lori Lightfoot.
Why doesn't
she? Well, I think she loves capitalism. Like she's never wanted us to shut down at all. Yeah, Pritzker could too. I don't know if he would politically, unless there was some sort of agreement that he and Lori could kind of do it together. I don't think he's going to step on her toes much.
They said he would be there dancing in the crowd. They said he would be in the crowd. Allegedly. Let's go to a little bit of video. Maybe will help us wrap our heads around this.
As you know, from the time that it was first announced, we were really pleased to partner with Lollapalooza with their decision to require vaccination or negative tests for attendees, and that certainly adds a level of complexity to the situation. But we want people to have a good time, and we want this to be as safe as it can be.
I think that's a little revealing. That statement right there, for it to be as safe as it can be.
Yeah, those are the words.
Yeah, sort of expresses that it must go on. There's no option that it can't happen. It's like, well, hold on. Why isn't it an option?
Yeah, because Lollapalooza in the state that it's in right now hasn't existed that long. Like, it's not a Chicago institution. The way like maybe the Taste is, even though no one really cares about the Taste much anymore. So it's not like Lollapalooza has to happen. It used to be a touring concert. It wasn't just, a huge thing in Chicago. And so we can just not have it happen again. You're right. It's ridiculous the way they're talking about it.
Okay, here's Lori. Pro streamer.
We made the best decision that we could, as always, based upon the data and based upon projections and modeling. We felt.
You shaking your head, Kenzo?
Well, she said, like, made the best decision we can, as we always do. They don't. She just does, like, even a good mayor shouldn't be that fucking arrogant. Yeah. Like, she can at least, I mean, like, I think she's batting, 0. But, she can at least make the argument maybe half the time she's making good decisions. But she's got such big lawyer brain, like, literally, like, big law makes people into these kind of people. Where, like, they have no souls. It's just like, I have the power in the situation. Everyone has to bend the knee to me. And she doesn't understand that she still, even though she won every single ward in Chicago, a politician has to continuously be campaigning. And she's not doing that. She's exerting her authority. And that's not to say I think that she's going to be easily defeated in the next election. I think there's a lot of apathy, and there's a lot of people who think, well, she hasn't screwed things up too much. There are people, I think, that have that mentality. No one seems to really love her, but still the majority of the city has a decent impression of her, which is going to be hard to chip away at.
Yeah. The people are like, well, what's your problem with Mayor Lori Lightfoot? And you're like, ugh, the bridges, like, where do you start, man?
I have some liberal family where I kind of like use them as a gauge for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're very resigned a lot to the fact that, like, these are all very big problems we're dealing with. And you have to, like, when a Democrat is in charge, you should just respect that because they're trying their best. And
oh my Lord.
So it's like this faith, this like unquestionable faith in institutions that I think really like animates liberalism. And that's hard because Lightfoot is someone who acts like a tough boss. And sometimes people respect that.
Yeah, and they say, oh, well, some part of the argument I think in there is like, well, if they didn't have to deal with so much bullshit, they'd be able to do what they wanted to be able to do. Yeah. And it's like, actually, hold on. That's part of the problem. What they want to do is wrong. Mm-hmm. All right, here's a little bit more video for us to chew on.
Very comfortable on June 11th, which was the date, fully opening up the city. We had been kind of working towards that point, looking at trends in the data. So no, I feel like we made the right decisions, but we're sounding the alarm today because we're starting to see this uptick.
Because they're starting to see the uptick. All right, I guess that was maybe a couple days ago when that video was taken. I'm not 100% sure. Mm-hmm. So, we got Lambda, we got the uptick. It's up 400% in the last 20 days per the numbers that I have available straight from Google. New York Times, I guess. Mayor Lori Lightfoot's got the ability to stop it. Perhaps Pritzker, neither are going to stop it. People got to get paid. What's the harm in that? Only 20,000 could possibly get sick. What's the harm in that? And of course, all the people that they infect later down the road. All right, so I don't know. Clearly, we sort of agree on this, but the question is, what can be done? What can we do? Should we be throwing a stink? Should somehow we be organizing? Is there some sort of DSA subgroup that has? I don't know. What do we do?
Honestly, I don't think we have the power to stop Lollapalooza. Okay. So the best we can, I mean, this might sound bleak, but I think the best we can really do is just not be there. Continue social distancing. I'm going to continue wearing a mask. And yeah, like this is the symptom of a bigger problem. And I think what the ruling class wants us to do is to try to fight every single symptom. So we get dejected and tired and just, kind of waste resources. So I wouldn't like protest or organize against Lollapalooza. Just not go, if there's a live stream, not to pay for it. And just kind of live on, organize around places where I think we do have more power, like, in our workplaces.
All right, so we're gonna boycott, divest, and sanction Lollapalooza, and hopefully not go. I was honestly thinking, would it even be worth someone going down there with a fucking sign, being like, "Hey, line's going up. Be fucking safe. Make a good choice." Like, who knows how many people could be like at the gate and turn around? I don't know. I just want to help people.
Bet you, if once people get that far, I don't think they're going to turn around.
At that point, you're getting your ass beat.
And I think, another thing you could do is just talk to people in the community, talk to your friends and neighbors about why they shouldn't go. But yeah, I don't think this is something that we really can't stop. It's the type of thing that's just going to sell out of tickets. And if people locally don't go, more people out of state are going to be buying those tickets.
All right. Any last thought?
Those things being good.
I'm so sorry I cut you off there, Kenzo. Last thing you just said there.
Oh, I just said neither of those being good.
Any last thoughts on what's happening here with COVID, with Lollapalooza? I still want to talk to you about it. I know personally, I think I mentioned to you as well, I'm going to start putting my mask back on when I go in public, and I think we're going to limit doing things in public again, sort of similar to back when it was more locked down. And that's one of the things that sort of led me to thinking, holy shit, maybe we should shut these bigger, gigantic things down. I'm just one person, and yet they're letting these things go on. It feels like it's going to make my decisions a wash, further reminding me that my choices as an individual cannot fix the entire fucking system. Helps me sleep at night. Okay.
One thing I think, another thing you could do, though, just came to mind is if you do know musicians that are playing it safe, not doing these super spreader events, go ahead and buy some of their albums, buy a t-shirt, support them in some way. If they have a GoFundMe, maybe send them some money, Patreon, Bandcamp, like actually pay for their Bandcamp. And that's another way of doing it, because we don't want smart musicians to like just throw in the towel and have all the dummies playing these super spreader events, like just take over the music industry even more than they already have.
There you go. Support your friends in music who need the support. Reach out to them. Send them a pizza. Musicians love pizza. Here. Universal facts. Kenzo, you're a teacher. You're a full-time teacher. Little known fact that some people don't know is we taught at the same high school at a different time though, and in the Chicago public schools. You're a full-time high school social studies teacher. I'm so sorry.
Social studies and English.
Studies and
Where they
English.
put me wherever they need me.
I don't know how it goes, right? What do you think about heading back to schools, especially as this line's going back up? There are kids that don't have the vaccine. There's no vaccine for the kids yet, right? There are increasing amount of adults that don't have the vaccine, even reasonable people that you think should have the vaccine. There's like nurses who like refuse to get the vaccine. And at this point, you're like, who the fuck does understand science enough? Like, makes you nervous going to a fucking hospital, dude, because people there don't believe science. Or they don't understand it enough to take it seriously. Anyways, fuck, right? And that's just a hospital. What about a school? You're going back to schools. What are your thoughts on heading back to school?
Well, the CTU's in negotiation over safe reopening again. This is just exhausting. And we got some good concessions. One of them, the board wanted there to be zero mask mandate. They're already saying they're not requiring teachers or students to be vaccinated. Even if, the students are old enough to get the vaccine. But this is the thing that's kind of just unbelievable. Like, in the contract negotiations, both sides have to start with kind of an unreasonable stance, and then you work your way to the middle. But the Board of Education's unreasonable stance they started with was zero mask mandates, and 5 days in-person schooling. So we'll have, another one is 3 feet distancing if available, if possible. So we're probably still going to have big class sizes. And on top of it, they're going to say no masks. Well, we got one concession, which is there's going to be a requirement for masks for indoors. And that's great.
Everybody in the building.
Yeah, I think that we should do we should do a semester remote until the elementary school kids can all get vaccinated. That's my thought on it. The way the board has pushed things so far to doing the bare minimum, that's never going to happen. We would have to like really roll them back. And they obviously don't want that. Another really despicable thing, though, is that everyone who is in charge in the CPS to push for in-person schooling no longer works for the board. Janice Jackson, chief ed officer, she's now working for a foundation. Her second in command, Latanya McDade, she's now a superintendent in a smaller district. They all cashed out and like made their money. But yet we are left in negotiations at where they left things. That doesn't you can't just run a clean slate at this point. So we're negotiating from this unreasonable place, which is, they want basically no mandate, no PPE, no anything. And we're fighting to get any kind of safety. So I don't know. I honestly don't know if it's going to be safe. Certainly what the board wants us to do is not safe at all. So we'll see where we land. And, it's scary because they also shortened our summer this year, which they're going to make up for next summer. But at the same time, this was not the year to do that, in my opinion. So 1 week shortened. So we're going to start school pretty soon. And I don't feel like we have good clarity on what it's going to look like. So I don't know how safe it's going to be.
I don't know how safe it's going to be. And I would say I was nervous before hearing about these other variants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like, oh no. One question is, what could teachers do where they do have schools opening and they don't have things like mask mandates? Get their union to organize or what?
Yeah. The union should be on top of all that. So yeah, you have to get organized around it. This is something that has to be negotiated. In fact, Chicago actually has the gold standard of reopening. In the first agreement that we had when the schools first reopened, which is adequate. It was not what we deserved, and it was not optimal safety. But saying that, it was better than any other city had been able to negotiate. Which is sad because usually that once someone sets the bar, then it's hard to get more than that. But we got a pretty good package compared to other districts. We should have stayed distance for the entire school year last year, in my opinion, but that didn't happen. So yeah, if you have a union that's not doing much, I would say, find some other members of the union that feel the way you do, organize them, and then start causing a little trouble for your union leaders as well. Trouble? Things like, in a small town, if you can get a dozen people to show up to a school board meeting and talk about unsafe conditions with an audience of school board members and parents, community organizers, that could do a lot. 20 to 30 people showing up to a school board meeting in a bigger city, because people don't really get involved so much. So if you can get even a small group together, you can show some power. As far as an internal union thing, you can get a dozen people to show up to the union office. Not to say, hey buddy, you're not to get in their face, but to say, let's have a conversation here. If you could show union leaders that you're a credible political threat, they might cave into some of your demands, or they might just fight you and you're gonna have to run against them. That happens sometimes too. But Internally in the union, there's fights to be had there too. One of the very unfortunate things is the United Federation of Teachers, which is the New York local of the AFT, holds almost all the power. They pulled almost all the political power as far as the direction of teachers unions. Even though the National Education Association is bigger, the AFT just is really good at wielding power in DC. And so they set the standards, and AFT and UFT is like, the same kind of leadership. And the UFT always rolls on their back. They don't believe in fighting the boss. So what you get are crappy contracts there, and then that is considered like a gold standard contract, and then we get crappy contracts elsewhere. So if you are bucking your like old guard leadership, there's fights on your hand, because the national, probably your state federation, wants to keep things as they are. So just, be on your guard, understand the lay of the land, understand the politics, but come in, the way I came into union politics was just being kind of clear-eyed and pure of heart, and like not getting bogged down in a lot of the internal shit, and just saying, well, we're going to fight for this. And if I can't find union, usual suspects of the union activists and leadership to get involved, I'll find other union activists. And once you form what could be considered a voting block of people, that's when leaders start to like either respect you, hate you, or some combination of the two.
And if they hate you, it's probably a good reason for it. Yeah, right. It could be because you're respectable, or they try to buy you off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And if you could play your cards right, you can be bought off and still not sell out. But those are stories for another time.
All right. So Kenzo, let me ask. You're not going to run for governor. Are you seriously considering something else?
So
other office?
Once my kid's in college, I consider running for something municipal. So like if my kid's going to be in college in about 10 years. So let's give it 12, to get him situated and make sure that he stays on the dean's list for a little while. So maybe in 12 years I'd run. If Matt Martin is still the alderman in my ward, the 47th ward, I will not run against him unless he sells out. But I will not run against him because I really like him. Maybe county commissioner, Cook County commissioner, maybe alderman if he leaves. But I would not leave Chicago. I just, this is where all my people are. This is where I've made my political bones. So I just feel like I'm at more of an advantage here. Plus, I just love the city. I don't want to schlep to Springfield all the time, or even worse, DC all the time. So if I were to ever run, it would be something local.
What does the commissioner do?
So like they make decisions on things like county level taxes. They negotiate with county unions, like when the county hospitals, I keep saying county, hospitals, jails, like Alan is saying, we'll negotiate with, like I'm already in office. They'll negotiate with, AFSCME, and, any kind of like fees that are county level, they take care of. But, it's a political office where if you use it as an organizing space, you can be organizing on the county level, or at least, the region of Cook County, as opposed to, just your ward or whatever. Like if I were to ever run for office, I'd be using my office as an organizing space, the way like Rosana Rodriguez Sanchez does, the way Carlos Rosa does, the way that, all of these really awesome Chicago aldermen are doing, where like, they're doing mutual aid out of their offices. They're, using that space to its full political potential, not just for electoral politics. And I also would want to have a good, and I'll use the word machine. I'd want a machine to make sure that all of my constituents are taken care of, not in a patronage way, but like, you know, you want to make sure that potholes are filled. And, you know, I live in Rahm Emanuel's neighborhood, and we have potholes on his road doesn't have potholes. Mine does. So you know, that the thing about constituent services was I know the chief of staff from Kashama Sawant, the city councilor in Seattle. And after she had won, I had a conversation with him, and he was telling me that one of the big problems they had with moving an agenda was that they were very intentional about responding to constituent services. And they were so responsive compared to every other city councilor that people from other regions of Seattle were calling their office and making appointments with Sawant to take care of, you know, potholes where they are, because they knew they'd actually get a call back or an email back. That's the kind of attention that I'd want to do. So, you know, that's why, like, organizing, I think, never really stops, you know, being in political spaces, building influence with people, because, you know, I'm not looking to run for office, maybe never, but I'm definitely not going to be running for office in the near future. But political relationships I'm building now, if I should change my mind as, you know, I'm a little older or after I retire, you know, those are things I can always come back to. Like, you know, a lot of people that are new to politics think that everything is going to be very quick. Like, you know, you want to run for state senator, so you're going to, you know, join all the right local business clubs, or, you know, you're going to be good with the union, and, you know, do all the right steps, get a job with another elected leader, run for office, and then win. And if you don't win, go to the private sector. That's the way a lot of people's political trajectories are. But politics, a lot of, you know, what it could really break down to is the relationships you have in your neighborhood. You know, like, I like using my wife as an example because she's very good at using soft power. Like, she's very charming, and she really cares about people and really listens to them. So she's on the local school council for our kids' school in our neighborhood, but she's always used as an organizing space, organizing parents, students, teachers around what's important to the school. Like, she was organizing the strike, the support for the strike lines when we went on strike a couple of years ago. We walk down the neighborhood and people stop her all the time and like, oh, hey, everyone knows her. That's politics. And she's never going to run for like a paid office. She was on the local school council. She is on the local school council, unpaid position, no real ladders for higher office there. But she does wield quite a bit of power in our neighborhood. In fact, a Binny's was going to open up right across the street from our school, which is a big box liquor store. And it would do a couple of things. One of the things it would do is it would decrease the amount of people applying to get into our school, because no one wants to be the school across from the liquor store. And it would close the local liquor store, that small business that's been here for like decades. And, you know, Erin was really smart about it, because she's like, well, we need a soccer field. So if you're going to decrease the value of our school by opening up a big liquor store here, you're going to have to increase it by building us a soccer field, because what that's going to do is it's going to attract students back into the school, and it's like we become whole again. And Benny said something like, we'll contribute $100,000 to a soccer field. Well, a new soccer field's like $1 million project. And so she's like, no, because we're not going to raise $900,000. So she organized a bunch of community meetings about this with the audience of the aldermen to debate the issue. And it was open to anyone on any side. Almost everyone except for the lobbyists that worked for Binny's was against this. And so it didn't open. And this was my wife, who's on the local school council, which is a small office, no real prestige there. And she was able to push it because she always used that office as an organizing space. And like, you know, that's the type of work that I'd be doing if I ever did inhabit an elected office.
Amazing. Rats on the soccer field.
We never got the soccer field.
Oh, right.
But they didn't get their bennies.
Exactly. You preserve the neighborhood.
Yeah, and then we got the little liquor store.
Exactly. You get to keep that.
And the old man that worked at that liquor store, every time I'd go in there to buy a 6-pack, he'd give my kid candy. You know,
nice.
little nice things in the neighborhood.
See? Don't get that from bennies. They don't give a shit who you are. Here. All right. We finally got the graphics department to work on the graphic there on the bottom. We'll work on something more Chicago. Be a red star or two.
Nice.
Figure it out. All right, Kenzo. What else? I wanted to ask about DSA and something I only heard about as sort of a dues-paying member of DSA. I had no idea what's going on, and then I started to realize, oh shit, should I have been at that meeting? Was it a general chapter meeting that didn't reach quorum, and so y'all weren't able to have the meeting? And okay, so it's just a general chapter meeting. What is the case with that? How many people need to be at the meeting for it to reach quorum?
It's a percentage of membership that's escaping me. I want to say it's something like 10%. Something like that, because we have a big chapter now. We're at close to 4,000, so that's becoming difficult. The thing with DSA is, and this is a good and a bad thing, is the fact there's such a low barrier for membership. You just pay your fee and then you're there, and that's good because it means people are comfortable saying, "Hey, I'm a card-carrying socialist." I think that's progress. But the problem is then we get like these bigger, we have more and more members, but not necessarily members that are engaged and showing up to meetings. So then, I feel like this is something that every few years we have to fight to get quorum. One of the issues I think with this past meeting was, people are really bummed out from trying to organize during this pandemic. We haven't had like a good national campaign since Bernie. And a lot of the organizing we've been doing has had to be very reactionary, or not reactionary, but reactive, like mutual aid, like just keeping people's heads above water during the pandemic. And, these were chapter elections for officers that came up, and, people. There were some people that ran unopposed because just people are burnt out. There was a big changing of the guard of leadership, I think, because of that. And it was just kind of a bummer of a meeting. And I think people kind of know that going into it, and kind of know that we don't have the energy around something like Bernie. Like, to be honest, except for the period when, we were organizing around Bernie, we were making quorum, but it was like last minute texting people to show up to meetings. Like, it was by the skin of our teeth. This meeting, without like a big campaign, I think, to rally around, people just weren't kind of tuned in. So I don't think it's the worst thing that the meeting wasn't an official meeting because it didn't make quorum. So yeah, I think we're still in rebuilding right now.
Rebuilding, getting more people involved, getting more people to realize, oh shit, we need to reach quorum. We need to show up to these meetings. I'm literally going, oh shit. Like today, I'm like, oh, I'm one of those people. Maybe I should start showing up. When are the meetings?
You'll have to look at the website because those big general meetings are quarterly, I believe. So I'm not exactly sure when the next one is.
All right, so I'll try to make sure I'm there.
There's always a meeting though. There's like either a working group, or some sort of committee. I just feel like every night there's some sort of meeting you could jump into.
For sure, yeah. I just sort of feel like I don't want to be the reason. Is there a way? Okay, is there a way for someone like me who's like not sure I want to, okay. I want to be like a part of it. I want to support it, but I don't necessarily want to be the reason that quorum's not met. Is there a way to just donate money to the place?
Oh yeah, I mean you can always just donate money to DSA.
Would be easier for them to do it monthly. Okay, figure that out. Okay, good to know. I might actually do that. Who knows, right? Or I'll try to figure out a way to get more engaged. Alan says they think people are afraid of the roles being huge because they only know the super activists rather than people who do background labor in a narrow lane. Be part of it. For one, I went to a quarterly meeting and I was really put off. I did not like it at all. I was like, this isn't for me. And I'm not mad at the organization as a whole. I could just sort of go, okay, well, this is made for people whose brains work on a different level than mine, and who are really able to engage and put in the time. At the same time, I know there are other sort of groups that they have within the organization that I should probably explore and see what else they have to offer. Yeah.
General meetings aren't the best place to jump in because that's when people typically different sets of people have different agendas. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but they're pushing a policy to go one way or an endorsement to go one way or another way. And a lot of context is missing, but really working groups and committees are a good place to start because that's where you find the work to do. And from there, then you can kind of understand the context of what's happening in the big general meetings. But you can not go to general meetings, to be honest, not pay attention to national, and still there's plenty of work to do in DSA. In fact, not paying attention when you're brand new, you should probably not pay attention to national for a year.
Good to know.
Because it doesn't really impact your work at all. There's some cool work that the National's doing. I'm not trying to downplay it, but especially if you're following the stuff on social media, it just looks like constant fighting. And that isn't it. The vast majority of DSA members are not on Twitter or on social media at all. So sometimes people don't even know what's going on. A lot of local activists in DSA I know don't understand the caucus system at all. And that's fine. They never have to learn it. You can just go in and do the work, and have a good time meeting new comrades.
All right, Kenzo. This is the bearded Chicagoan caucus. Yeah, look at that. Kenzo, go ahead and give yourself the big shout out. What do you do? Right. Where can people find you doing? I think we forgot to do that at the top. So yeah.
So I stream with Dan every Sunday over at twitch.tv/classtime from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Central Time. It's the show Meet the Left, where we have a panel of 3 leftists of any kind of stripe, any kind of discipline or ideology. We have a lot of writers, comics, organizers on. It's an eclectic bunch. Sometimes we'll accidentally book three comedians on and you just laugh the whole time, or we'll have on 3 real heavy duty thinkers and hurt your brain a little bit, but have fun in the process. And this particular Sunday, this is going to be a good one too if you want to learn about what's going to be going on at the DSA convention, because we have 2 candidates for National Political Committee in the DSA that'll be running during this convention coming up. Laura Gabby, DSA, and Austin Gonzalez from Richmond DSA, and he's already on the National Political Committee. They're running on different slates too, so this should be interesting. I did check in with both of them, is it okay? Do you want to, be on a panel with somewhat of a political opponent? And they're like, yeah, it's cool. They're both super nice people, super good faith, debate, political people. And of course, Amy C3, we all know from Twitch. Very excited to talk to her. So, I made this little graphic here. Austin's kind of the international politics guy. Laura is labor. She's a carpenter. She's a union carpenter for I think about 10 years or so. She's been in the field a long time. And then Amy is an expert in housing. So I think we can look at the intersections there. We do that every Sunday. I also stream occasionally at twitch.tv/classtime. Now that I'm reset up my streaming room. I think there'll be more of that to come, and it's summer. And we just to chill, vibe, talk politics, and what else did I want to mention? Yeah, that's really it. Awesome. Dan just put my Twitter in the chat. That Twitter account is banned for 3 more days. So if it's a little quiet, that's why.
I was wondering. I got a 12-hour yesterday.
Oof. This is my first week. I got a 12. What'd you get there? Well, maybe we shouldn't talk about it on stream.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Kenzo, a lot of fun. I suppose we'll call that the first episode of the Chicago Boys.
Excellent.
Milton Friedman, eat your heart out. He's rolling in his grave right now.
He's rotting in piss right now.
We're using the Chicago Boys name in vain, and that's for good. All right, Kenzo, we invited you in the spirit of building left unity, strength, and power. You're amazing. You're great. Always fun to chat with you. We'll have to grab a beer sometime. We still have yet to do that. Well, actually, it's going to get harder to do so. Son of a bitch. We'll figure it out. Kenzo, be good to yourself. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Right. Take care, man. Peace.
That's supposed to happen. That's okay. Folks, that was Kenzo Shibata. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe